Mary, it's so wonderful to meet you, finally, after all this time. And I'm just kidding. That's great. Beautiful. Okay. So, first of all, I have to give you a hug.
I took off the glasses.
But you know what? You can keep them on if you want to see. That's
no,
fine.
I wanted you should see the whole face.
Okay. But after a while, if your eyes get tired, you'll put it back
Yeah,
on.
that's all right.
So first of all,
Yeah.
you come from where? What city?
Šarej, was Molever gubernia, but then it became Vitebsker gubernia. The
Okay.
governments began
Changed
to
the name.
change. They changed a lot of places. But we lived
Sure.
in Borisov.
Okay,
In
so,
Borisov, we had your family a lot.
okay,
We had a lot of cousins there
right.
from both sides, from my mother's side and my father's side. You come from my father's side.
Exactly. Now, your father's name is what?
In Mendel.
Mendel Rubin.
He had two names, Mendel Rubin Nanus.
Right.
And
he,
from him, I had a brother Michael Nanus.
Right.
And Nochem Nanus,
Right.
which is gone.
Right.
And I had a few brothers that are gone.
Do you remember their names?
Yes.
Okay.
I remember there was a Schleime
Right.
Nanus.
Right.
There was Nanus. Wait, but there was a Nanus, Tante Sasha.
Okay.
She was a Nanus.
Right. So Sashi was his sister.
In Ukraine, in the Ukraine.
Okay.
And she moved up there because
Okay,
of
now
kind
this-
of the climates.
See, this is important because what we're trying to do is find, we think that there are a lot of Nanuses
Yes.
that are related, but when they came to America, they changed the spelling of their name. Like, we spell it Nanus.
We spell it Naes.
Okay, but we're still totally related.
I had it in the, yes, it's the same thing.
Same thing, and we found...
Nanus is named because my grandfather,
Right.
great-grandfather,
What was his name?
was Nanus,
What was his first name?
Avram,
His name was Avram, and his wife's name was Sarah?
Sarah.
Okay, so they're the original Nanus.
Sarah, I had a sister, Sarah. She was named after him.
Your
But
sister, Sarah.
She was gone.
Okay.
She was young, but she was gone.
Okay, so and Avram Nanus and Sarah Nanus, where did they live? Where did they come from?
Sarah, they lived there in Minsk, mostly.
Okay.
In Minsk.
In Minsk.
And Asipovich, I had an aunt, Sore,
Okay.
and she lived in Asipovich. That's also Minsker gubernia,
Right.
you see. And she had only daughters. She had 4 daughters, but I don't know all the names.
Do you remember any of their names?
One is Arochel, was there,
Right.
and Ahenya.
Okay.
And
Do you know their last name?
the, from Asipovich, I know the name, but it's very. They had the name from Asipovich, and the spell at the moment I wouldn't be able to remember.
Okay.
But I remember that my mother's maiden name was Tuman. My mother's side.
I see.
You come from my
The Nanus
father's
side,
side.
right.
From the Nanus side.
Exactly.
The Nanuses have them this way. They had a sister, 2 sisters. They were, of course, gone, and they didn't have brothers. But then they had brothers through my father's side,
Okay.
through my father.
Right.
My father was the oldest.
Okay. And his name was?
Mendel Rubin.
Oh, so Mendel Rubin.
He is really an uncle to you.
Right. So we're
Well,
we're first cousins once removed.
That's right.
Okay.
The children from him,
Right.
we are cousins.
Right.
Now, but you see, we wouldn't touch my mother's side. You're interested in the
father's.
Nanus family.
Exactly.
The Nanus family wasn't too big because a kind of the army,
Right.
if there was a son born by them Zayden, by my grandfather,
Right.
he always looked for a place where a man has no children to see, because the Tsarina,
Because the Tsarina, right?
wife gave a decree that any boy that is born by a Jew,
Right.
so the firstborn,
Has to go into the army.
could go to the army.
Okay.
So naturally, they start to travel where to go. So a lot of them went to Liverpool.
Right.
A lot of them went to the States of America. Also that time, because they were able to go because the grandfather of Abraham,
Right.
which is your grandfather too,
Right.
he had money
How come he had money?
because he lived in a farm.
Okay.
In the farm he rented from a Christian person,
Uh-huh.
and he had a mill that makes flour.
Right.
He didn't own the ground,
Right.
but the ground owned the Christian.
Right.
But he had a lot of good things like flour, the wheat.
Right. Right. Right.
The
And so
wheat.
he would sell that.
Yeah, no. And then they built a mill.
Oh, so
And then-
Avram built a mill
Yes.
on this land.
Yes. And the land he didn't own.
No, I understand.
But
He
the
rented
mill
it,
he owned.
and that was made a
Paid
lot of money.
taxes
Right.
to the Christian man owner. But you see, the mill was, say, the Avrams. As the mill grew, it was progressed in the flower field. The children, he started to give them education.
Wow.
So how you gave education? By taking rabbis in the house to
Right.
teach them,
Right.
and the girls to try to teach them to daven, simply religion things.
Right.
And Baba Sore, may she rest in peace. I had a sister, Sarah, named
Named
after
after
her.
her. Now, did you know her?
Of course, I did.
So did you live on the land with them in that farmhouse?
No, we lived separate because we lived in a different state.
Oh.
We spread it out that the boys should not be able to go to the army. But we had an uncle, Mote,
Right.
which would be an uncle to you too,
Right.
but second uncle, like.
Right.
He was caught by that time the Tsarina said that
They have to
one
go-
child don't take by the Jew, but if he has a couple of sins, they have to go in the Japanese war. That's when the war broke out.
Okay.
From then on, I could remember practically everything.
Okay.
Simple reason, but I remember I was with Uncle Money in St. Petersburg for 3 months.
Now he was a Nanus.
Nanus.
His name was what?
Mother.
Mutta Nanus.
Yes, Nanus.
Now he
was called Mark Nanus.
And he was your
My
father's
father's
brother. Okay.
Now, he had another brother.
And that was my grandfather's brother.
Yeah,
Right?
But you come from the family. My father had 2 more brothers.
Okay.
He had one brother was a bachelor,
And what was his name?
named Shmuel.
Okay, Shmuel
yeah.
Nanus. Okay.
But then he was the last one, younger.
Youngest
you know.
one. Okay.
In between, there was another brother. It was my father. It was one.
Right.
And then they had another brother, and his name was Mote. He was
The one in St.
and they
Petersburg.
called him, right,
Mark,
and
okay.
they called him, and he was in the Japanese War.
Oh.
But he came back
Right.
alive. So the Tsarina, the old witch,
Right.
told them that if any Jew that went to war
Right.
and came back is allowed to live in St. Petersburg. So this Uncle Mate settled in St. Petersburg. That's where I went when I went to college.
And
for
how
3
you were
months.
like 17?
I was 17 then.
So
I took up pharmacy.
really?
Yes, but I came home for the Christmas holidays.
Right.
My father said, "Shh, we don't tell nobody. We're going to America." How we came to America? United States didn't recognize Russia,
Okay.
but recognized Poland. So we had to smuggle into Poland.
Wow.
And from then on, I could give you the whole history. So when we came to Poland, we were trying to see who is who were to be saved. So one uncle, she was settled in Chicago. His name was Hessel, but he was the baby of the family.
And that was my grandfather.
Yes.
Okay.
And then as the older one was, we called him Uncle Mule, but he was a bachelor.
Right.
And then it was another Uncle Mote, where I stood with, that they caught and they took him to the army.
Right.
But he came alive.
And he's in St. Petersburg.
St. Petersburg.
And that's why
he lived in St. Petersburg. The Tsarina gave a decree that any Jew that was saved from Japanese-American war could travel all over Russia.
Right.
That's how he settled in St. Petersburg.
Now, do you know his children's names?
Yes, it was Abe, Abraham, and Sarah.
So he had
named after my grandmother and grandfather.
And that Abraham Nanus and Sarah Nanus stayed in St. Petersburg. They never came to the United States.
Never came to the United States. And I never got in touch with them since, because they traveled all over, because the time was very, very rough.
Yeah.
So, and they didn't want to go to the army.
Right.
Well, all I know that maybe they are still there. I don't think so. Because...
Well, we have cousins in St. Petersburg. We have Nana's cousins in St. Petersburg.
Well, then it's from these children.
I must be, exactly.
You see, because their mother's name was Rosalie, I remember distinctly.
Okay.
And they were...
Wait, that's Mati's wife.
Yeah.
It was Rosalie.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right. And they was kept in touch with one another.
Right.
Forget my mother's side. My mother's side was a rabbinical side.
Right, we don't talk about them.
But you want to know from this side.
Now, who was Sashi, who I'm named after?
Sasha is my father had a sister, Sasha.
Right.
And she had a sister, Zlate.
Uh-huh.
And he had another sister, Sore.
Right.
She was, and that's how came along. Well, Bobby Sore stood. Sasha lived in the Ukraine, in External Slav, they called it. But she came back, she wanted to stay with my mother because she was very sick. And I remember when she passed away, and she, but she wanted to be with my mother. Because my mother was the oldest daughter-in-law.
Right.
And my father was the oldest son.
Right.
You see. And that's where my father's name is Mendel Reuben.
Right.
But he was the oldest. After him came three more.
Okay.
Came one Amule, we called him.
Okay.
And he had a different name because if he would have the same Nanus, they would take one of them in the army.
Right.
So they put him to a name that my grandfather had a cousin that was a different name entirely.
Which was?
It was Kaminsky.
So we're related to Kaminsky, too?
Yeah, a Kaminsky. See, because that's what Russian Jews were trying to trickle to send to America, to send whatever they could.
Right.
Now, as far as I know, there was my grandfather had daughters too, but they all passed away.
Now, did your grandfather, Abraham, did he have any brothers or sisters that you remember?
And Abraham had a tante, they called her Dvere. She lived in a small town. In fact, this Dvere, when I was in Petersburg, they called
St. Petersburg, right.
She was married. I don't know her second name, but her name was Zvere.
Zvere?
Zvere, yeah.
And this was Abraham's sister.
Yes.
Now, did Abraham have any brothers?
Abraham, I don't think the brothers. That means Abraham had the way you would speak the brothers. The Zayde, the grandfather.
Right.
He had this. My father was the oldest.
Right.
In the boys.
Right.
And Fetter Mule, and his real name was Shmulhirs.
Right.
Too. And then there was another brother. They called him Hazel, and Motte.
The one who lived in St. Petersburg. Right.
So that was his real sons from Bobby Sore, from the Tante Grandma Sore.
Now,
I had a sister Sore,
named after
the
her.
grandmother.
Now,
or the real grandmother.
Which was Sarah.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Yeah. Did you ever meet his father, your great-grandfather?
Abraham Nanus? No, I didn't meet.
Did you know his name?
No, we didn't, because don't you see, we had World War I.
Right.
All the sons, wherever my father was able to push them around that they shouldn't go to war.
I know.
They tried to. So one son, Hassel Sender, was in Chicago.
Right.
My two brothers were in New York City.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
That's what I know.
Right.
That I've seen.
Right.
And then they had sisters,
right.
Which I had a sister, Elke, which my sister Emma is still alive.
Right. I talked to her. I'm going to meet her too.
Yeah.
I spoke to her.
She may know other names because I left St. Petersburg and I went
right to Poland and then to America.
To Poland, and I went with my mother's family more than with my father's family. My sister Emma, what you call actually, Elke,
right.
She had lived with them all through the life.
Right.
You see what I mean? Now, Elke was my father's sister. She died very young.
And so she had no children?
She had children. Elke had daughters, no sons.
Okay.
See? Why the name Nanus is in existence is simple that till Tsar Nikolai came in power,
right,
we always have names son after father.
Right.
And
so it would be like Abraham, son of
so-and-so.
So, right.
But she wanted a name. So it happened that Hassel was the last son that was born.
Right.
By my grandmother Sore.
Right.
So it was a miracle. He was born a boy.
Right.
So they gave him Hassel. So they said that he wasn't in the war.
Right.
You see, he went through China and tried to reach Canada or America.
Through China.
Through China.
Uh-huh.
But that was a story that my father used to tell us quietly. The thing is this, my father had a lot of sisters, they all died young.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
But my sister Emma is named after one.
Right.
And then it was Tante Blume, I remember. And should be another one that I know, the daughter of that mother, Nanus.
Nanus.
And Nanus was there. But this was hard because of kind of the army. They split them wherever they could.
So they wouldn't be taken.
Whoever man had no sons,
right,
and you had a son, you paid him to give the name.
Oh.
Just because the Tsarina said one son
will not be taken.
Not be taken.
Now I have a question. So are we originally from Sare?
Yes, from Sare.
That's where you
from the same I come from.
Okay, so that's where you grew up.
Yes.
In Sare.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Sare left.
What was the town?
They were rich.
No, what was
in a village?
The village. It was a village called Sare.
Yeah. But then her children spread out.
Right.
Some passed away.
Right.
And some spread away to Canada, wherever they only could.
Right.
So a lot of them, Hassel came to Chicago.
Right. That's how I ended up. Now, are some of our relatives also from Vilnius?
What do you mean?
Well, my brother found on a map a town called Vilnius.
Vilna. Vilna is Poland.
Now, so are we from Poland at all?
No, we were still from Russia.
Okay, so that was...
We were from Russia. They were running as much as possible.
Okay.
But they run to America through my mother's family.
I see.
That family was trying to go to Canada
And the United
and
States.
So it went that way. My father's family was going the other way,
Right.
and they ended in Chicago. Hassel,
Right.
He was the baby in the family.
Right. Now,
Then they had a sister, Elke. She died very young. She left 3 daughters. I only knew one.
what was her name?
The only one I knew was Vera.
Vera. And did
Right.
she marry?
She was married, but she had no children.
Oh,
When I left, she didn't have
any
children. She married a little late in life.
okay.
But I remember her tall, thin, and beautiful.
Oh.
That's all I know.
Do you remember a place called Olkaninski? Well, my brother said Olkaninki.
No.
Okay.
Veliki Luki.
What was it called?
Veliki Luki. Was a city.
And did any Nanuses come from there?
Nobody.
Okay.
None that I know of.
And then he
The-
found another place called, there's some Nanuses that came from Grodno.
Grodno.
Were we from there?
No.
Okay.
You're only from Minsk. First it was Minsker gubernia.
Right.
Then it was Vitebsker gubernia. Then
Right.
they changed the gubernias.
Right.
But actually they come, all of us from my father's side was all from Molever gubernia.
Okay.
Molev.
Okay,
That's
Molev
big city,
gubernia.
Molev. And that was that. That was our part from my father's side, which you were interested in my
Right.
father's family.
Right. Now, my brother
Yeah.
has been trying to put together a family tree.
Oh, so was
And he had a couple names of Nanuses that he didn't know if they were related. So I'm going to tell you
me
some
who-
names,
yeah.
and you'll see if
Yeah.
it sounds familiar. There was a Yankel Nanus who had a daughter, Nechama Nanus. Does that sound familiar?
Nahum doesn't sound.
Okay. There was an Abraham Nanus who had a brother, Isaac,
Yes.
and Yonah.
Yeah.
Is that our Nanuses?
Nanus says, I have a brother, Abraham.
Okay.
My brother, I lost him, but I had a brother.
You had a brother, Abraham.
Nanus, yes.
And did you have a brother, Isaac and Yonah?
Isaac Aminigahat.
No.
And you
And you know.
Aminigahat.
Now, your brother, Abraham,
Yes.
did he come to America?
He came to Chicago.
No.
No, he didn't come. Abraham didn't come to Chicago. The brothers were only one from Chicago was Hassel.
Right. But,
He came also to another, and a brother Mote, which he is named after, he came to Japan, to America.
oh, really?
He's my uncle Mote
Right.
was in the Japanese-Russian War.
Right.
And he came to the United States through all America, Canada and America.
And he came to New York,
He came to New York.
and his name was Mutta. Not the one who stayed in St. Petersburg.
No, in St. Peter. He was in St. Petersburg, the Uncle Motte. I stood there the 3 months.
Right. So who came who was in the Japanese War?
Motte,
The same Mutta.
the same Motte.
Okay.
And when he came, the other brothers were named to other men and wives that have no children. And that Tarina said, you don't take the kids. That was named only one child,
Right.
a son. The daughter she didn't count.
She didn't care about it. Okay. Now, have you ever heard of a Hillel Nanus from Butramans? Hillel Nanus, he came from a town called Butramon.
No, that's not
That's not our
connection.
relative.
No connection.
Okay.
And he carries Nanus?
Yeah, but a different spelling.
Oh,
And then there was a Chasia Nanus.
Nastasia?
Chasia or
Chashe.
Yes.
Sasha.
Is that a cousin?
That cousin,
She
that's
came from Saray.
Chare. That's where I was born.
Okay, so she came to America in 1914. Was she an aunt of yours, or was
She was my mother's sister.
so? She was your mother's sister.
Yeah.
and her name
In
was.
other words, she's connected with you because she
She was your mother's sister.
Sister,
So
yeah.
she wasn't a Nanus.
To me, she was an aunt.
Right. But I'm saying in 1914,
Yeah.
a Nanus, her name was Genya or Chasia Nanus, came to the United States.
In 1914,
Yes, it's on Ellis Island.
Yes, in Ellis Island.
It says that in 1914, she was 22 years old, and
they settled in Chicago.
And her name was Genya, Chasya.
Katja?
I'm not sure. It's either Chasya or Genya.
Jenna, meaning you had Jenny, and found you and neither Jenna.
Genya?
Genya mirechni gehad.
What?
That's Genya.
Oh, okay.
My father had only one sister, was named Sasha.
Okay.
That's a sister.
Right.
And one was Reze.
Right.
That was a sister.
Right.
That I know of.
Okay.
And I knew them.
Wait a minute. Didn't you have a Tante Genya?
Did you have a Tante Genya?
Tante Genya, no, Genya no men ken. Men je kent Blume, Tante Blume,
right.
And Tante Sole.
Okay.
But the Bobet Gehesen Sole too.
Right.
But that was a Tante too, Sole.
Okay, I have another person.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
But there was another, my great-grandfather had 2 wives.
Oh.
But yes.
Now, what was your great-grandfather's name?
My Mendel Reuben Avraham.
No, Abraham was your grandfather. Who was his father?
I think his father's name was Nussin.
Nussin.
Yeah.
Nussin?
Yeah. And that's where the name started from.
From Nanus.
Nanus.
From Nussin.
Nanus.
Yeah, that makes sense, because in those days they didn't give you a last name.
They don't give gay names. They give dates because they were always afraid of the army. In Yekaterinslav, my father had the Tante Sasha from our little chalet, moved to Yekaterinslav. She lived there. She was Sasha. I remember her distinctly. But then they have another sister, which I never met, but she lived in Orshe, a little big town in Orshe.
And what was her name?
Her, I know the children, but she was Elke.
Okay.
My sister Emma is named after her.
And what were the children's names?
Her children's name I met in Moscow. In Leningrad was Dora Dvere, and they had... And I think I remember Amate, but that one didn't live long.
Do you know their last name?
No, last names I don't. We didn't carry so much about last names.
I understand.
We carried the name of the father.
I understand.
You know what I mean?
Son of, yeah.
And besides, it was such a hard thing because they looked places where they cannot catch the boys to go in the army because they never would come. Only time Uncle Mota came alive, and Hessel ran to Chicago through the other way completely and landed in Chicago.
Right.
And there he found relatives, I think, from the grandmother's side, from the side.
Right.
But I know that Uncle Hessel was in Chicago.
Right.
He had 2 daughters. He had Lake and Sora.
And he had a son. Who was born here. The son was born in America. The daughters were born in Russia. Now I have another question. You said your great-grandfather, Nussin, or Nachum, he had 2 wives.
Yeah.
Because his first wife died.
Yes, I know. And he married the sister of the other wife.
Really?
Yeah, because...
Did he have children with the first wife?
No.
Okay, just with the second wife.
Yeah.
Who was Avram.
Yeah, Avram.
And any other children?
No.
Just Avram was their only child.
I remember the Zayd Avram. That's what I remember.
Okay.
And then he had he had daughters.
Right.
And why the Nanus came from is when the Tsarina said that she doesn't want the Jews to call they have to have a second name, not the father's name and so on.
Right.
So my father said, in the meantime, it was born, Hessel was born.
Right.
That means he had sons, but a son, regardless, he tried to, took away from the town. He went to the family from the Boba side. Right. Not to mingle with this side. So the Uncle Hessel had 2 daughters.
Right.
Hotleke and Sorkin.
Right.
Sorkin.
Right, my aunts. Those were my
Yeah.
aunts that I knew.
Yeah.
Now I have another question. There was I have from Saray, Chare,
Yeah.
was a Janos Nanus in 1910. He was 32 years old.
1910.
Like, so do you know
Nanus.
him? Janos or Janos Nanus?
Yankiv Nanus.
Yankiv Nanus?
Yeah, you
That's
couldn't
right
have
for
a
my
young-
time.
That was before your
Nah,
time.
that's much, much before.
Okay,
I'm 97 years old. I'm starting from there.
that's true.
young-
And I have another Nanus. There was a Chaja Nanus, came from Saray in 1913, and she had a daughter, Guta, and a
Yeah.
son, Leb.
Yeah.
Is that our cousins?
Yeah, cousins.
Okay,
That's
now
cousins.
how is Chaja related to us? How are they a cousin?
She's cousins to, that's third generation cousins.
Okay.
Because he came from the Nanus family. Nanus came from that because in the beginning my great-great-grandfather didn't have sons. You see, he had a lot of daughters,
Right.
which you don't interest so much. You want to
Right.
know the Nanus
Right.
family.
Right.
So when he was born, a son, Hassel,
Right.
he gave him, either Nanus, is look. Nas means a miracle. And
Right.
Nanus, that means it was a miracle. Finally, he had a son.
That's amazing. That's right. Nace is a miracle.
That's right. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Problem is that.
And Nathan was Nochim in their home.
Okay, so Nachum Nanus,
Yes.
there was a Nachum Nanus in 1910. I know that's when you were like 7 years old.
Yeah.
But he came to the United States
Sick.
from Saray.
Yeah.
Who was Nachum?
Nochim is given a son to Zayd Avram.
So he was Avram, one of Avram's sons
Yeah,
was Nachum.
because-
And they
yeah.
came
Yeah.
way.
Or way back. When they settled in Chicago, it's like New York was like one world against another world. You see what I mean?
Of course.
But then whenever they took people to the United States, they had to go through Canada or to Japan. My uncle Mote,
Right.
that I talk about, he
To
in
St. Petersburg.
Amafan, New York.
Right.
His name, Mote. He was in the Japanese war. He was the only one in our town that came alive back.
Unbelievable. And that's why.
And that's why they
they
gave
were-
him the permission to travel
settle.
all over Russia.
That's
And
amazing.
if my father wanted to go to see Vetter Motten,
Right.
he had to cost him 60 ruble a ticket.
Wow.
60 rubles. You
Wow.
know, American rubles,
I understand.
like here dollars.
Right.
To come to get, and only stay 24 hours.
Wow.
So they used to tip off the janitor, and
Right.
he used to stay. My father stood a whole 2 weeks by mutton in the house. I was there 3 months. I
Right.
stood by
Right.
mutton.
Now, when you grew up in Saray, was it? It was a village.
A village.
And what was the
It was
village?
already recognized as a village.
And what
Twice-
was it? Only Jewish people living there?
Not only. It
Were
was
we-
only three streets was all Jewish. The rest was all
all
around
Gentile.
was Gentiles.
Now-
And they all had ground, and they had animals, and they had horses, and they
Right.
had everything. But the thing is this: my grandfather, Abraham,
Right.
he built a mill.
Right.
You know what a mill is?
Of course, for wheat.
He couldn't own it.
Right. Because
So
he
he-
was a Jew.
He was
Jew
a
could
Jew.
not own land.
Yeah. So when he got the name Nanus,
Right.
it didn't look Jewish to them.
Right.
So, but in the heart and in by Jews,
Right.
in the contract, he owned a mill.
Now,
And from that mill, all the family had
Money.
something to live on.
right.
Because a mill is very successful.
Absolutely.
That's it. He had horses, he had ground.
Really?
But you see, the ground, what he had, he didn't own.
Right. He rented that.
He rented it.
Now,
But
I have
he-
another question. Were we religious at all? Or no?
Very religious.
We were religious.
Yes.
So Avram, like, wore a yarmulke,
Oh, yes.
and
oh,
he had the
yes.
side curls?
The kids, the girl, they were very religious.
Really?
Actually, you see, I have that cousin Vera, or you talk, Emma is named after our mother.
Right.
And they were very, very religious people.
Huh.
But this Emma's Aflangior,
Right.
she was the second wife by her husband, which is no connection to us.
No.
She is the cousine, but not, the connection.
Right.
But she was a widow a long time.
Right.
And in Yekaterinslav, the Tante Sasha,
Right.
her name is Levinson, also through marriage.
So
But her-
Sasha's last name was Levinson.
Who? In
Tante Sasha?
Sasha's name was full name Levinson, but with Tugino, but
But then she got married and she was a Nanus.
Yeah.
Wait. Was she a Nanus originally?
Yes.
Okay.
Tante Sasha was a real
Nanus.
sister to my father.
Okay, so she married a man whose last name was Levinson.
Yeah.
Did they have any children?
Levinson. Well, Levinson, I think they had only one daughter, and I remember that they used to talk that she didn't live long, that her name was Rochel.
Okay, and she was...
They never wanted those children to hear anything about who is missing.
Right.
Because they were afraid,
Right.
You see, the only beautiful thing is that the Jews that lived in the villages used to rent the grounds from the Christians that
Right.
didn't know how to work with it.
Right.
So one day they had a meal.
Right.
The other one had lakes. My father had a lake,
He did?
couple of lakes.
Really?
But he was catching the winter
Fish.
and bring it to the town, and people from different cities used to come to buy the fish.
Ah.
See, that's what I'm trying to
What was
tell
your
you.
father's name again?
Mendel.
Okay.
Mendel Ruhr.
Right.
He had two
right.
names.
Right.
And he was the oldest,
Right.
you see.
So he
Because-
did not work for Avram. He worked
Yeah,
for himself.
himself,
He did his
yeah.
own business.
And from there, everybody made a living
like
through that way.
a good living.
Yeah. They used to rent orchards
Right. For fruit.
and then have their own workers.
Right.
And when the apples were ready, pick them to send them to Minsk.
Right.
Pears we didn't know, but we only knew good apples.
Right.
And they used to send them. I remember I was a little one. I used to watch the way they packed them in the boxes
Right.
and to send them to the railroad 30 miles
Right.
and come to Minsk, Borisov, Vitebsk. And there they used to, people used to buy from storekeepers.
Right.
And they were rich.
Wow.
Because
So we
they
were rich.
Wholesalers.
Right. So
But a Jew did not
I want
own any ground.
I understand they had to rent it. Now,
Yeah.
what was your house like that you grew up in?
In the house,
In Soray.
in Chile, we already had a Goya, Natasha, they called her, we had a Goya. She was quiet for a while, and we paid her, my mother paid her 30 rubles a month,
Right.
but
Was
yeah,
it a big house? Did you
a
live in
big house.
Really?
Not up and down,
One floor, right?
And a big yard, tremendous big.
Really?
That my father used to rent Christians to dig the ground,
Right.
to put potatoes and put cucumbers and cabbage, everything in. We had a tremendous yard. Here they call a yard.
Right.
We had an own cow.
Wow.
We had an own, because the doctor said that my mother needed
Milk.
cow's milk.
Right.
So we had a goat, because the doctor said the milk is good for her.
Right.
She was a tubercular patient. That was another story.
Yeah.
So the other family from her sisters took care of her.
Right.
If my mother used to get a hemorrhage through the lungs, and give a telegram to my mother's sister,
Right.
and Zoom, they are here. And
Wow.
they took care of us. And we were little ones.
Yeah, I know.
Then they used to bring us little dresses.
Right.
Dresses.
Right.
And my mother couldn't stay in our town, so we had to move. That's where we moved to Borisov.
So you moved from Saray to Borisov.
Borisov.
And who moved? Just Mendel Rubin?
Roman, and we found that the Mendel Rubin's uncle's children given a raise,
Right.
and as given, he worked by timber. Now, I guess it's I know him all of a sudden. It's right on top of my tongue.
Okay.
And he was what they call a salesman.
Uh-huh.
A salesman that came to you and
Right.
offered you what you need.
Right.
And then he bought it. We had to pack apples and pears and so on and send it to them.
Now,
My father rented lakes
right.
and catch fish.
In
winter.
Saray or Borisov?
In Saray.
So when he moved to Borisov, what did he do?
No, nothing.
He didn't have to work. You had enough
we
money?
had to wait, but he couldn't. He was already in the years, and he couldn't. There was no mail. We had the Second World War, and we had the Revolution,
The First World War, you mean?
the First World War, and then came the Revolution,
Right.
and then came the Second Big War.
Right, but you were already here with the Second
In the
War.
Second War, I was some here and some there,
Oh, really?
because we went incognito.
No.
You know what I mean, incognito?
Of course.
We went on to different names and
Right.
different times.
Right.
If you ask my father, do you have children, he used to say
Say no.
You understand?
Of course I
Because we
understand.
gave different names. We had a Horowitz, but it's no relation.
Wow.
As long as
Right, so you would sell that, say, we want to buy your
because
name.
you did a favor. You had
Exactly.
to give him the name. He had no sons.
Now, somebody told me that because maybe it was Mutta
Yeah,
who was in the army,
yeah,
that once the Jew was in the army and survived, they could live anywhere.
yeah.
So all the Nanuses could travel.
No, not all.
Just Mutta?
No, my father went to see Mutta, but it cost him $60
Oh.
rubles a
So
ticket.
just Mutta could travel
He
anywhere.
only Mutta traveled all over. all over.
Oh, okay.
No, Hassel went to America through Japan.
Right.
Because he was in Harbin and he was going different way. And finally he came to Chicago, not to New York,
Right.
but to Chicago.
Right.
In Chicago, he went, the Jews made a habit, they used to have their own soyuz, like a farein, they called it. Du bist a Sharia, bist a member. Du bist a different city, du bist a member in that city.
Right,
you know.
right.
So when a relative or a friend that needed help,
They
used
were
to come
there.
to them.
Right.
And they used to say, go to him and tell him that I send you, he'll give you a job.
Right.
That's how my brother Nochim got it through my mother's and uncle, the job.
Right.
You understand?
Now-
It was like two families
Wow.
breaking up.
Now, do you need something to drink or a little break just because you've been talking and I don't want to tire you? But also, let's take a little break. And also, I'm going to call my brother
Yeah.
in Chicago right
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
because he is the one who's all, been putting this all together.
Yeah.
And he may have some questions, but
You
this
got a
has been
phone?
so fantastic. This
got
is
a
so
phone?
great.
It's-
I have a phone, yeah.
I mean, I remember
The house
because
you
you
lived
know
in
what?
in
My
Russia
mother,
with-
he handed rubles the government
Right?
because one son, they
Wait,
were
I'm going to have
looking
you,
for that
you need
son.
to tell my brother this as well. Hold on. Go ahead.
One son that ran away not to go in the army was Nanus.
Right?
And why was it Nanus? Because they had girls in the beginning, and when the one son was born, they say Nanus means Anes means a miracle in
Did you hear
Hebrew.
that?
Nes,
Because the reason our last name is Nanus is
Nanus.
because Abraham only had daughters, and when he finally had a son,
son. They
it was
gave
like
him
a miracle.
It was a nes from
because
God.
they didn't.
It's a nes.
It's a nes from God. It's a miracle.
That's right. So,
Well, they didn't have last
And
names
being that we didn't have
They-
the last name,
because it used to
so
be
came,
son of.
So
Yeah.
Mendel Nanus, Michel Nanus,
Yes.
Nate
So
Nanus.
Avram Nanus was the first.
First,
Yes, he was the first Nanus.
The
The
other-
rest were son of.
yeah. He was the first one. Made up
and
Nanus.
we know the name of the grandfather. His name was Nachum, right?
No,
Who had two wives.
Nochem.
The great-grandfather had two wives.
One died very young.
One died young.
Rest-
She had no children.
No, she
And the other
left Veren.
But is there
Martin.
anything, now, just to answer your questions, some of the people Mary does not know, but some she does. We are not, like, she knows Nachum Nanus from Saray. She knew him. He was an uncle. And Chaja Nanus with Guta and Leb, you knew them too from
That
Saray.
was from the mother's side.
From the
she
mother's
was
side.
not a Nanus. And Nanus was our only family. He had a brother, they didn't call him Nanus.
Right.
Because they would take him in the army.
So what was his last name?
Kuznets.
There was a
Kuznetsov,
Nanus. See,
yeah.
what happened in those days is
That's
that
right.
if you had more
Sons.
than one son,
It was
the
bad.
Tsar would take
They looked-
the son into the army.
We had...
So, let me just explain to him. So, what they did is they would sell the last name to someone who didn't have a son.
That's right.
So there are actual Nanuses that have different last names because they changed it
Sure.
so that the Tsar wouldn't take them.
Kagan is another name.
Kagan is another name.
From my mother's side, it's entirely different.
Oh, that's, no,
Our-
Kagan is
They are Nanuses, but
Nitananus.
they had to change their last
Kagan is
name.
Nitananus.
No, Kagan is not an Nanus.
Okay, Kagan is not.
Nanus
But-
started from the time
All right.
by him
Yeah.
that a
But-
son was born.
Yeah.
He had
Yeah.
4
I
daughters,
can't judge you at
remember.
the same time as
Son died.
But-
So we're
No, you told her that already.
She knows Saray. We're from
Take a
Saray.
sip.
But then we're from Saray, and then we moved to where? Barissa. See, what happened was,
in Barisa was to get settled.
it's Saray.
Charay is...
It's
so you know-
Saray, and then did they change it to Sharia? Or was Ari Saray?
Always Charay.
Ari Saray, she said.
Take a drink. But she pronounces it
Mestechka
Shah.
Charay with a...
Take a drink.
The difference is in how they spell it.
It's,
Yeah.
because see, there's a Zareya.
From the, as it
Sharia.
came from the acrylic, the Cyrillic.
Is it on the map?
more
I
while
couldn't
she's
find it on the
Okay.
map.
Here is, hold on. This is one place you want to
Share
know.
had lakes.
But then here is Zara.
Oh, yeah,
Zare.
Kulo Lakes.
See, here's another Zara.
Oh, maybe
Kulo
they
Lakes.
spelled.
And that was my father's business. And summertime, he used to rent...
Say
We're not
Havana
from
map.
God, no.
Yeah.
What?
Sigvana Zelik, that was my father's
No.
an uncle.
Oh, she just named somebody else.
Who?
An Uncle Zelig.
Yes.
Uncle Zelig? What was
Yeah.
Zelig
Father's
Nana?
uncle?
But he had a different second name.
Oh, see, there was an Uncle Zelig, but he had a
But
different
they
second
did
name.
Kaminsky.
Kaminsky.
Yeah.
Was that a map?
Yeah, now it's
Yeah.
Zare.
Zelig
Maybe that's how they wrote it.
Don't you see what they
Let me
mixed
look
up?
at it.
Not to
Wait,
send...
Mary, did he come to the United States?
No.
Zelig.
No,
Zelig didn't
No.
come.
But we have there's
I
an
know
uncle called Moti. Moti Nanus, who was in the Japanese War,
Yes.
and he survived. And because
Yes.
he survived, they gave him like a special thing, dispensation. He could live anywhere, so he moved to St. Petersburg, and I think that's where
That's
Boris
where he
comes
settled. He married
Yeah.
a girl.
Yeah. No,
Her
not
name was
Mordechai. His
Razali.
name was Moti. His name wasn't Mordechai. It was Moti.
Mordechai.
It was Mordechai. Yeah.
Am ich gehe zu der Torah,
Ja.
sagt man nicht Motte.
Ja.
Sagt Mordechai ben so
Mordechai, yeah.
Ben Avram.
Okay.
That's fine.
they will.
You
Oh
nervous?
yeah, she doesn't. You don't remember any of Avram's brothers. He didn't have any brothers.
My brother, my father.
No,
No.
your great,
Avram didn't
your
have any
grandfather.
brothers.
Remember, he
Avram-
was the only
No,
son.
don't you see? My great grandfather
Right, the great
had
grandfather.
had mostly girls.
See,
They
the
all
great
died young.
grandfather had all girls
Girls.
except for Avram, and he was the miracle son.
And that's right, because if gedenkt them Zayden Avraham, and I remember
Right.
from the mother's side, which
Right.
not has nothing to do.
Do you
I
understand?
married
Okay.
more because they used to travel to us and come as guests and go back.
Yeah.
And my
Probably
father's
not.
family,
Yeah.
they were not very rich, you
Right.
understand, lived in Borisov.
Right.
They were just...
Wait, who lived in Borisov? Just you?
Later in life, in Borisov, we lived because my mother was not...
Right, she didn't
Yeah,
feel
but
well.
what other cousins
All right,
did you have in
If you have
Borisov?
any questions,
Yes.
call
Or
me on my
tantes?
cell phone.
Yeah, raised it.
You
With
need
the
to
cousins.
call me on
Only
my cell phone,
cousins.
but
He gave us latte.
no, there's no number.
And
All right, hold on. Can he call and have on this phone, so I'm not on my cell phone, can he call back and have, because there's a phone there, have the extension into
I
here?
have
You
to
wanna
ask
go-
in the main office.
What you have to do is call the main, do you know the main office number?
2000.
But what's the first part?
731
It's-
732.
Wait, is it 973?
No.
6009?
No, it's
No.
1732
873
873
2000.
2000. So call here and say,
ask
can
them.
I have the small synagogue? Say my aunt is being interviewed here, and I would like Marty's here, and his wife and his
Myrna.
sister
I'm
Myrna.
Isabel.
Okay. All right. So call. Goodbye.
Marty,
Right.
is named after my Vetter mother.
Yeah.
The mother that was Japanese war.
Right.
But he left two sons. I was in Petrograd
Right.
that time. Listen to, there was two sons,
Right.
had two children. One was Abrasha,
Right.
and the other one was Sarah. Abrasha is a Rothschild, Azizus Avrohom.
Right.
Where they are now, I don't know.
Well, no. I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah?
Their Mordechai's grandson's
Yeah.
name is Beryl.
Yeah.
They moved to New Jersey.
Where?
They live not far from here.
No
Really?
kidding.
Beryl
Yeah.
Oh, it's Farrell. We met
That's
Farrell.
Beryl Kroll.
Beryl Kroll.
Well, the crow comes now.
No,
Wait,
two ways.
two ways.
Yeah.
Where
The
in New
crow
Jersey did you
comes
live?
from my from my grandmother's side.
Right.
No. The Nanus.
But he married both. They married
Yeah,
both
but-
sides,
yeah.
right?
You understand?
Yeah.
But
Because
then,
I met him.
Yeah.
But he
and-
doesn't speak English very well. He only speaks. But his daughter,
Yeah.
who's like my age,
Yeah.
we met. Her name is Ina.
Where they
And
live.
they live in by Livingston, New Jersey.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew.
40
I
minutes
have
for
I never knew.
You didn't know this?
No, she
No.
knew where he lived. She met Farrell when he came to
She
this
met
country.
Beryl.
Wasn't it Myers?
Like
house?
Maya's
Like
house.
2 years ago,
No,
they
Beryl
came.
came to my mother's house.
He came
You
once
see?
to her there.
But the problem
I'm
is,
giving you
from there
all
he
from
went-
my father's side.
Yeah,
which is
my
what I
mother
want.
has entirely a different.
Right.
You know what happened? He
But
came,
I'm related from your father's
Yeah.
side.
see, Beryl
You are
came to
related
Bayonne.
from my father's side.
Right.
That's
why I'm at.
trying to-
Beryl came to Bayonne. From Bayonne, he went to California. Yeah, but they had gone from New Jersey to
Okay.
California. You know they came back.
Yes.
I wonder who your father
Right.
came to. Your grandfather, I mean.
Oh. Relatives.
Yeah,
but what is on my
Don't-
the
Yeah.
youngest son who
Your
went to
uncle.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay, went to Chicago.
Yeah.
Did he go? No, he went.
Came through friends. That he
Oh.
was going through Japan. We
Okay.
didn't know. My father.
You're looking for.
His name after he
Right.
my sister was buried. In other words, passed away
Right.
and married a sister, Sole.
Right.
It came in.
Now, where? But there was a good
Nanus,
or a Lebanese
a good given on my mother's side.
on your mother's.
And was known as
But that's
my
what
mother.
she
doesn't
doesn't
Had,
remember.
she was a
It's gotta be a
dentist.
different name.
That's
Don't
what-
forget the spellings different.
My mother's
Nah.
name. My mother's name was
Kaju's
different.
not that.
Mother's
It's
name.
And Khaja, Jenya,
Genya.
No,
Genya.
Genya.
Genya, G.
G. Who was she?
Ian.
She came in 1914.
You had a cousin Genya, Mama?
Yeah.
A cousin kennen, hat sich abgerufen in Chicago. Dort is a ganze family voran. In Chicago, there's a lot of people going under different names.
Yes, that I know, because we.
Or a Tante Chasha on your father's side?
Spellings also.
Chashe?
Yeah.
No,
No
oh.
Chasha? No cousin Chasha?
Not Chashe, on my mother's side.
Yeah, not on your father's
What
side.
happens is
Trying to
this,
find that name
far
that
as she can
Right.
understand.
you said
Up to a
Chasha.
certain
There's no
point,
Chasha.
Chashe,
Because see, there are some-
had a sister, Sasha,
Right.
and a sister,
Always so-and-so the son.
Sore, no, Sore you couldn't have because the Bob is Sore. The Bob, I had my grandmother's, my father's mother was Sore.
So that at the earliest time that she
And no cousin Guta?
with
On
Mother's
your
side.
Yeah, but not on your father's side?
No, it's
cousin
mother's
Guta?
side. That's
Because
mother's
maybe they
side.
came over in Ellis Island, they just gave them the same last name. You know what I mean?
Right.
Maybe they did that
No,
for some
good.
reason.
Yeah.
My
Maybe
mother
they
had,
were
my mother had
sponsored
6
by
sisters.
Somebody
Nanus
else.
is here,
Yeah.
so they decided let's.
Yeah.
So that's
No, you can't go that far. For the simple reason you could tell
Yeah,
them, the
because of the
boys
name.
had different names, a kind of the army, and the girls are remained not too many.
Yeah.
Soshi, Tante Soshi, I remember,
Right.
and Tante Blume, Esther. If you remember, I had a cousin Esther.
Yes.
Well, her mother was my father's half-sister.
Oh, now
Under
wait a
other
minute,
names.
that's something else.
Okay.
Other second
Let me hear
names,
Okay.
not only names.
You see?
Esther
They consider
married
them
my
to be
Uncle Sam,
Nanus,
who
Yeah,
was
You know what I'm saying?
Mulia.
But
Muller, yeah.
Okay, that's my mother's brother.
they were different. last names.
Married
We traced
Esther,
Yes.
Mary's brother.
married someone named Esther, who
Okay.
at that time I was told was an orphan.
Like
Yes.
She had been orphaned.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was a mitzvah to marry this
He is
orphan.
part of the
Yes.
Nanus clan.
So he married
This is
Esther.
Nachum.
No.
Nachan.
No,
My
Mulia.
brother Sam
Sam, they called him
married.
Sam.
She left 3 daughters.
Yeah, no. Sam married Esther. And you
Yes.
said Esther was a cousin,
Cousin, first cousin.
a first cousin,
Yeah.
and who was
How
Esther's
he got
father?
there was
And
because
Gathering.
his father
And mother?
And the
You
mother.
said she was a cousin. Who was her mother?
Her mother, she didn't. They were all.
Yeah.
We knew they were orphans.
But you don't remember
No,
mother's name or
because,
father's name?
Yes, it was an epidemic at that time. I remember, and a lot of people died. Esther was left are Esther given and Roche and Zlate.
You see,
All these sisters were orphans. They rufen die Yeshemim, my mother used to call them. In other words, it was a big epidemic and they passed away. So I only knew one, like Esther, because she was the baby.
Right.
And then it was Roche.
Right.
I knew when she was married.
Right.
And then there was Reze,
Right.
toy daughter. And then there was a Lebe, as a brother they had.
Right.
And they had a Shmuel, a brother. That was from my father's side.
Right.
The 5
There
children.
was a typhoid.
They were all orphans.
My mother lost 2 sisters to the epidemic.
You
Really?
see how I remember
Her
the
sister
names.
had typhoid.
See, my mother's is entirely a different family.
Wow.
But you ask them, that's what I know. From them, some got married, some died away.
Right. Now I have a question. When you left Russia,
Yeah,
was your grandpa Abram still alive?
no.
He had died.
My brother Abe is dead already, named after
your
him.
father, she
Abe died, you know,
Yeah.
In
Ida,
Russia?
Ida's husband, here in
Abe
America.
came to the United States, but the grandfather was already dead because
Russia.
Abe was named for him.
Oh,
He was named after
But
him.
you remember him?
Avram,
Yeah.
not Zayde.
You don't remember him.
No, I remember my brother Abe.
Do you remember Sarah?
Sarah Bob is yeah.
Yeah. You remember her?
Yeah, yes.
What was she like?
But she was a beautiful woman.
Yeah.
She had a daughter, Sasha, like I
Right,
told you.
right.
And she had a daughter, Rachel, and she had a daughter, Zlate.
So we could.
Right.
3 daughters, no sons. She
Right.
didn't have no sons. You see.
But you've got to
It
understand.
seems that we found out
Right.
through my father,
Yeah,
my father,
accepted.
Right.
that
She
my
might be
Zayde,
able to go.
Right.
We might be
first
able to
wife
go,
died.
Right.
Below that,
You see,
And
honey?
Sarah was his
And
second wife.
there was the dry shaving.
Orphans.
Abraham.
Orphans, and they were raised by the second wife.
What were the orphans' names?
Well, I just told you.
This was the first wife's children?
Yeah, they were little ones, but it was a big epidemic at that time. They told us a story. Flexsteiners, it used to hurt them to talk about it.
Of course.
Because they didn't have no medication.
Right.
They used to burn up like lightning. My father and mother lost 2 children like that because they couldn't get the medicine. You understand? For typhoid fever.
Right.
When I got typhoid fever here, my mother cried like a baby. Mama, she says, could be grown man kid. You
close the door?
understand? That she buried one child. She don't want to bury. I had typhoid fever in my life.
Could you close the door just for a
We
little bit? I
had
know it's warm.
epidemics of all kinds and we had no medicine.
Difficult.
By them to die a child, it was in no time. You understand?
I do understand.
But that Elke, Emma, is named after, and she gave birth to 2 daughters, and she died from the birth of the 3rd.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, who was
And
this?
her
The
fa-
first wife?
This now in Koch, but now is his second wife.
Wait, who died in childbirth? The first wife?
Yes.
So she had 2 daughters.
There was 3.
Where are they going?
I think I know from 2 daughters that they died.
What?
They were left. They used to call them orphans. The Yisraelim.
Did you hear this? That Abram
3.
had his first wife, they did have children.
Oh, there were 2 daughters.
2 daughters from the first marriage.
Yeah.
So what happened to
Esther-
their children?
Esther, die had een stiefmama, niet een mama. Esther had a stiefmama. You remember Esther?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Esther was not the daughter of Abraham.
No,
No, not
No.
your
You know, she has
Zayde Abraham.
my Zayde Abraham, Avram had gehad Sasha und Tante Mate and she had my mother's name from my mother's side, Fege, but
Fagin was my grandmother.
yes, I know she was your grandmother.
Right.
But it
From what
basically
side?
was,
From, I don't know whose side.
But you're
She was a
Fagin.
crow.
My
I
mother's
thought.
name is
no,
Fagin. My mother's name was
Fagin
Fagin.
also.
Yeah.
Okay.
common name.
So,
See, my mother's name was Fagin.
you
And
knew
that's-
my grandmother, yes?
Yes, I knew your grandmother Fagin. I
And
had
Rachel, her sister?
Yeah, and I have a
Were they
grandmother,
cousins?
Malke.
Yeah.
No.
Esther's
Your
mother,
grandparents,
Esther's
were
mother
they
gave
cousins?
Malke.
No?
No.
It was there,
Mother is a
you know,
Tuman,
I want to tell you
and she's
something.
married.
I had
And
a
that's
sister-in-law, Esther, that had a mother, her mother's name was Malke.
That's it.
no.
Esther's
See?
mother's Malka.
My
was
father's
Malki.
mother was a platte.
And what was Malka's last name?
I don't know.
Yeah, see.
And
Because
what town was Malka from?
they were born in, at that time they call it jalapenos, something like that, something.
Oh, well,
Names I can't,
I
You
understand
see-
you're doing great. You're doing unbelievably.
Yeah.
So there was a, what was her name?
you see,
Esther was the one that.
my
No,
mother,
Malka.
let me explain to you. We had, I had a sister-in-law.
Wait,
Let
question.
me interrupt.
Yeah.
Do you remember what lake your father had his business on?
Oh, the lakes in Chalet?
Yeah,
Was
didn't
it in
it?
Chile?
Oh, sie gewinnen in Derfel. Sie waren Levitzer, sie gewinnen Lukomnier, Teichen. You know,
Yes.
because it was in Christian hands, and when you had someplace contracts of them.
Okay.
You should find in
It
your
was in three
archive
different towns.
the contracts what he used to make
You know,
with them.
the little villages are marked out
Yeah.
into towns and areas. And
It was all done QT. Don't you
I
see?
understand, absolutely.
You understand?
Get your names, but I don't think they
I-
will appear on.
As I
They
said,
were out,
my sister
Outside of
Esther
Charette.
Right.
had a sister Rochel Zlata.
yeah, but, you know,
Raise it.
miles away from
And
it.
we used to call them, they used to come to us as guests, the orphans that we,
Yeah.
or they were orphans from a mother
She said-
that
yeah,
belonged
she
to my
said
father as
that,
a
they
sister
were
that
like
passed
2 or
away.
3
But they
streets
didn't like
that
to
were
talk
full of
about,
Jews and the rest were
right away,
non-Jews.
Gavek, you know,
Right,
we
right,
shouldn't listen.
Right.
You
I
understand?
do understand. But were they Nanuses also?
They were, naturally, they were
They were
Nanuses.
cousins, but
Not all of them were married.
Right.
Roche had gehad a different name. I remember her husband died very young.
Yeah.
I don't remember his name. Hessel, he was a Nanus that I know.
Right.
Mule, a brother of my father's.
Right.
And this Hessel's a father.
Right.
He was named Kagan. You know why? My father had a second uncle. I had no children.
SUSAIN.
So he took his last name. So
Yeah.
the Tsar wouldn't take him into the army.
That's right. You understand?
I
What's the
totally
second-
understand.
See, but
Second
what
uncle.
apparently
What?
happened.
You
is
see
this-
what I
second
mean?
uncle
It's
taken.
so mixed up. They mixed it up so with the names. When she gave a decree that we have to have a name, not a father's name, but a name.
Name.
So he took Nanus because it was a nest from God that he had a son.
And
Right.
The rest he had 3 daughters.
Right.
So that's what came Nanes. Nes is a miracle.
Right. Right.
And Nanes, and that's what it
Have a
is.
drink, Mama, you're getting a little hoarse. Take one out.
Sons, you know, if there was a family
Well, this,
that had-
Mary, this has
that had
been
no sons,
fantastic.
they were registered
Amazing,
that-
isn't
You
it?
know,
Oh my God,
No,
she's
stop it.
unbelievable.
No,
You're
stop.
unbelievable. I hope my memory's as good as yours when I'm
had a
97.
different
I doubt it.
name.
My memory.
97.
First of all, you don't even look 97.
And then it's-
That's
You
what they
look
tell me.
fantastic.
That's what they told me.
Well,
But I
it's
told
true.
them my feet gave up, but my head works.
That's the best way, that it, not the other way around. Who
Yeah.
needs a feet if your head's not working, right? That's true.
My head works.
Yes.
But I want to bring you out
As far
this,
as I
Okay.
know,
that everything in the
Sam
Russian
Nanus,
Jewish life was very miserable.
the one who
Really?
lived
From
in
the
Russia
rich to the
did
poor.
not come.
We had in our little Chareitan a Dropkin family.
Right.
They all moved away, only the buildings remained. Why? Because the second 2 wives passed away without children,
Right.
and the third wife had all the sons. He came in the Japanese War. So they spread them out like if you spread
Grain.
potatoes.
Right.
So once came
Problem
Mate,
with this
and
is that there comes a time. when
my age a
families
girl,
around
and my sister's
all
age a
in the
girl.
same street.
Two
In other
sisters.
words,
That
one
was
is
from
one
his,
generation
her
after the
father's
other.
third
It could
wife.
be a generation or two generations.
You
I
understand?
do understand.
So it's
In other
very
words,
hard to
if
tell
somebody
you
died, had
that
a
there
long
is a
life,
was a one daughter
they
came
would
from
bring
Moscow.
a
That was from the second wife.
that person's
Right.
name
But she
because
was
they had a
lucky
long
enough.
life.
She worked for a
That was a theory.
family that took her to Moscow.
Right.
You understand?
Absolutely.
Under a different second name, and she lived in Moscow. That's what we knew.
Right, you don't know what happened
Of
to her.
course not,
Yeah.
because we only knew when she came to see that he told her,
Hold on.
Uncle, this is Uncle Mendel.
Mom,
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mama,
Ma, here's
Mom?
another question.
do you know, Mom, do you know how Beryl Crow is related?
Yes, that's Mordecai. She told us it's Mordecai's
What?
grandson.
Miriam?
Hello? That's Mordecai Nanus' grandson.
Yeah.
I know.
Mote, I remember Uncle Mote when he came from Japan. My God, ooh. He brought gifts to everybody, an umbrella.
There were other
Tante
grandsons.
Sasha came from Czechoslovakia. She brought an umbrella and a pocketbook for Emma, an umbrella for me. And that was a big deal.
I'm
I
sure.
didn't know we had a relative named
And
Crow.
you
They
know,
showed up at the door.
and then she gave us a box candy to give an rather big deal. You know, although we weren't too poor, my mother
still
always had
from
a maid
Japan.
in the house. Always had a maid in the
Really?
house.
Now, I'm talking
Because
about
Saturday you have
the
the
Mordecai
Shabbos,
the crow, and we had chickens,
In the Russian
and we had
Japanese.
everything. Big garden, a big garden.
Big house.
And so the goyim would bring it, and the water to bring in the house.
All right.
He's a
We had
contemporary.
we had a well. We did it. We had to go to the well.
He's a couple-
We paid the
he's a
goya to
couple
bring
years
the
older
water to the
than your
house.
father and
But
me.
we had a big, what do you call it? Pamunitsa, we used to call it. Big thing to
Okay.
put the water in and cover it up.
Okay.
Right.
Now,
And then
take
boil
one of
it.
the girls,
Right.
You know, it wasn't
Then she
easy for
married
our
somebody.
in-law.
I
for
can
the-
imagine.
Was
So
very-
different today,
If they
right?
didn't have any boys.
Different today, we're spoiled.
I know.
well, she
Thank
married
goodness.
Beryl Crow.
Thank goodness, right?
You know, as I
Just turn on
said,
a light, right?
I named after a grandmother, Miriam,
On whose side? On your mother's side?
mother's side.
Okay.
My mother had, they were 7 sisters.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some she remembers.
You do?
There is, Gute was a dentist.
Right. A dentist?
Hase was a midwife. Eschke was a dental mechanic. She was in Canada. She came back, she didn't like the climate. I
Just bear
remember
in
that.
mind, I used
Then
to
was
play
Latte,
Now you
and
see
then
it,
was
now you
Rive.
don't with males.
They
Did you
had
know there was the
5 daughters and one son, the Rabbi Tuman, which was my father-in-law. But all from one wife,
Wow.
and her name was Malki.
Now, how did you meet your husband?
Mordecai's grandson.
He came to us.
How?
The father wrote to him that the family, came to
Wait, in New York or in Russia?
in New York, in
Okay.
Harlem,
So he was still in
Russia.
Russia?
Sure.
So
My
he-
father-in-law.
No, your
And
husband.
my husband,
Yeah.
he smuggled in
He was
to the-
Bear
smuggled
in
in.
mind, my
to
Jewish
Poland.
cousins
Uh-huh.
are not
and from
related.
Poland. He stood there by friends like landslide, they called them.
Right.
You know.
Landsman, yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And he stood with them and worked for them. And then when we came,
Right.
he came to us and stood with us.
Did you know your husband in Russia?
No,
You met him here.
I did not. I met him here. I met him in the
First
Americas.
cousins.
He's your cousin?
He's my first cousin. I married
My
the
parents were
cousin.
cousins too.
Really? On your mother's side?
On the mother's side, I married the cousin.
But you didn't know him.
No.
Okay.
Now he's intrigued.
My mother said us you show them names. You
All
understand?
right, but who is this Russian?
this is the
Brokan.
Nathan that came into the United States in
Came to
1910.
Moshe.
1910 or 12.
Right.
Yeah.
He came
Which
to
is her brother.
Yeah.
her brother.
Her
Who'd
brother
he
Nathan.
come to, Mama?
Who, Nathan?
Nathan
Yeah.
came to Meshaja,
Yes.
and
He
Meshaja.
was an uncle. They're going to the Bob and to my mother's mother brother.
Oh, it was on the
Mother's side.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
That's
we
the
know.
mother's side entirely.
Oh, I thought it was a Nana's side.
No, they're
No,
related to.
Nana's side is
That's
on
how
this
Brooks is
side.
related to them.
Okay. Well,
My mother's side, my father's side, there's quite a few dead.
they're all dead.
They know, young,
Oh, young. Okay.
because I kind of the damn war.
Oh, all right.
No, neither one. The prison. You gotta go in the army, and that was murder. That was upset. So when he gave the kid that name,
Right.
he didn't know you, and he didn't know who's the father and mother. That was the father and mother. And with that father and mother, they went to America. They took him to America.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when he came
Sure.
and realized, you started sending letters and letters and letters. So when we came to America, used to come and say, you know, you're my uncle.
Is a Kuznets.
The Tuman.
They used to pay money for it,
Yeah.
plenty.
Baba Sara.
That's the Tuman side,
Mama.
not her.
Baba Sara.
Yeah,
Do you remember her mother?
no, I don't
No,
remember.
no.
Bobby Soros, I remember
I thought
Bobby
maybe
Soros.
one of the children
And my
might have been
mother's,
named after
mother's
her
was Bobby
mother.
Malke.
Right.
Malke was named my mother's mother.
There it is.
Wait, Malka was after your mother's mother, but that's
Yeah.
not a Nanus.
Yeah,
Ah, but she married a Nanus.
But
Not
she
Well,
married,
it doesn't
she
matter.
married a
Doesn't
nun.
help.
Okay. It was
The
supposed
nuns was given
Okay.
later
It was
in
the
life.
mother's
I'm
mother.
searching, yes.
Yeah,
Hey, I appreciate
you
that.
Okay.
people
She
don't
married a
understand.
Nanus.
When I said
Not with the mother, not the
I was
mother's
born.
mother.
Wait
Right.
a minute. I was born in 1905, right?
Right.
Four.
Four.
Four. Yes. In 1919 is the Tsarina Yevona Gansina Balabosti, the Tsar Nikolai Givenadomi, the Zun.
That
You
was
understand?
before 19.
And
No.
she told.
No, that was way before.
way
You
before.
had a Nanus name way before that.
You had Nana's name
Yeah.
before
Wait a
the
minute.
First World War.
First one,
That would have been 1913. 1912.
1913.
But in
I'm not speaking of
1910, Nanus came
1913.
over.
Yes,
I'm
they were
speaking of
already Nanuses.
1900.
They were Nanuses.
No, you were
Yeah.
Nanuses before that.
You were before that.
There is a Nanus came just for the simple reason the social.
Well,
Abraham was a Nanus.
Do you
Because there
remember
is
when your father
was born girls before by
You
my
have to go to
grandfather,
cemetery and look
Avram.
at When his birthday is.
Oh.
You have the books there.
You don't.
It should be.
I got it in the books. He's buried on the
Oh,
plot.
on the plot. Yeah.
What? Oh,
But
her
it's
father.
written In
Yeah.
Yiddish and in-
Was he
and
was in
Hebrew,
America.
And I don't read
Yes,
Yiddish.
Did
and
you know
Hebrew.
him?
yes.
Benjamin. We
Very
have no
quiet
Benjamin.
man.
Oh,
That Sadie never said anything to me.
oh, Mendel Rubin?
Yeah, never
With the
said
red
it.
face?
And
With the red hair?
yeah, I didn't know him with red hair.
He was a
Anybody in
blonde.
the family,
My
your
father's
side,
family.
have red
Nobody's
hair?
red hair.
The Rita Bald.
He
I
had
remember about
supposedly red hair. Have two
You
cousins
see,
that had
as I
red
said,
hair.
it was complicated for the simple reason that they looked how to escape trouble.
Right.
And a lot of them went to London, you know.
Somebody went to London.
Yeah,
Some
and
Nanus went to
yeah.
London.
And you know what
Who?
business he had in London?
What?
He used to make how you say in
Rooms.
English?
Rooms?
In Turkish beds, they used to wash the backs with
Right.
them.
Oh.
The-
Oh, like the things
yeah,
you hit.
yeah.
Mama, who went to London?
my
Feta?
mama's side.
Oh, Mama's side.
Okay.
Mama's
Okay.
side.
Okay.
Lost that one too. Okay, we're trying.
Because mama's maiden name, I think, was Platkin.
What?
If I'm not mistaken.
Cousin labor.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
That's
Put the tape
the
back
from
on.
my
That's
father's
the
side.
way I remember her father.
Okay, cousin labor
Except he wasn't so fat.
from her
I got
father.
it. I got-
he's got the same kind of physique as
No. I remember him.
Oh,
When
he
he
was
Cousin
so
labor.
handsome and from
I
the
remember
Navy.
him
Yeah.
when he was trim, and I mean trim.
That's when
I
the
I
know.
looked at him and I
Oh.
said,
to give an
this is
essence
a
up to
Nanus?
the.
No.
He was-
Well,
Because
who
now,
is
now he looks like Meyer.
Oh yeah.
Who is your-
He's like 70.
who's your father named after?
Yeah. Who is Label named after?
Labor?
Yeah.
Labor, I don't know, but I know that one of his brothers was
Husband.
married, had his father lived
Your father still there?
in near
Like 3 years ago.
near Atsipovich. Soren, it was for Soren.
Well,
I
it's
can't
not
go
sure.
that side. I have
Can't
to
go that far.
concentrate. I have to
Can't go that far.
concentrate.
Yeah.
But he looks a duplicate from Maya.
Right, that's what I said. That's why I love.
You had-
Who were your brothers?
Your brothers.
Your
Mama.
brothers.
How are you?
My brothers?
Yeah.
You had
Sam.
Michu,
No.
Nochim, Shleime, Mule. Is 5.
Abe.
Abe.
No, that was 4.
You named 4.
Abe.
Abe was,
Abe is Avron.
Yeah, Avram.
So there were 5 brothers, and they're all Nanuses.
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
Yes.
They
Yeah,
all
I'm
came to New
figuring.
York?
I know.
Yes.
I just passed 5 brothers.
Yeah. that we
That's
just-
including my father.
no, it's not
No, no, no.
I mean,
No.
including your,
They came
your
with Jenny and
uncle,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't
Michu.
that weird?
Michu.
you
That's
had
from my.
Mitchell, Max.
He went to
There are
Hesbrook
two.
Heights.
Mitchell, Max,
Michu is
Sam,
2, und
Abe,
Nochim,
and
und Abe, und Motte. 5 brothers,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
3 sisters. I mean, 2
Emma,
sisters.
you,
2 sisters.
2 sisters.
Yeah, she had 2
And
But there were 9
we
children.
had more. We had a
Remember
Shleime
those 2
died,
died?
a
Yes, there were
Shleime,
9.
and a Dvere died.
Who's the
2 children died in 1 week from typhoid fever. That's, I mean, gewähnt in Charei. So we moved out from the village to Charei.
Mitchell,
My father lost 2 children that died,
Sam,
Shleiman and Dvere.
who's the fifth?
They were both already
Who's your
grown
fifth
up.
uncle? You don't know?